Hey Tommy, I just got back from Portland where I drove the brand new Buick Enclave. And as you know, that is the cousin to this, the GMC Acadia, which is the cousin to the Chevy Traverse. So in this video, since we've had all three of them, I thought, well, we could talk about all three and compare them.
Yeah, that's a great idea because this is a brand new vehicle for General Motors. They've heavily revised not only the Acadia, but the Buick and the Chevrolet as well. And we're going to talk about them and see which one you should buy. So let's talk about this Acadia we're looking at here, Dad. This is a really cool spec. This is the AT4, which gives you some proper off-road hardware, including fixed bright red recovery points, some skid plates, and an off-road set of tires, along with some cool all-wheel drive trickery.
Yeah, you know, the Buick is much more luxurious and I would say much more aerodynamic. You know, it feels like they put it in the wind tunnel and then stretched everything, including the headlights. And I'm a sucker for off-roady vehicles, so I like the squared off nature design of the GMC more than I like the Buick.
They really brought this GMC more in line with their truck design, especially with these clamped headlights that surround the grille. Very chunky, very squared off. And then let's go over on this side case and we'll talk about the wheel and tire package on this Acadia. So we're looking at a Goodyear Wrangler Territory AT and a 265/65 R18 with this kind of two-tone silver on gray wheel. A really attractive design, and I like this too. A little nod to the heavy-duty trucks. We've got a little marker light located here on the fenders, which is kind of a nice touch. Now, Dad, let's talk about the powertrain.
Yeah,
so the old Acadias and Traverses and whatever were known for their V6 power, but now we've got two fewer cylinders and a turbo.
Yeah, so you can have your Acadia, Enclave, or Traverse in any powertrain as long as it's a 2.5 liter four-cylinder turbo that puts out 338 horsepower, 326 horsepower, mated.
328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque.
Made it to an 8-speed automatic. So the powertrain is identical, and it's kind of a cousin to Andre's little bigger 2.7 four-cylinder turbo that he has in his Colorado.
Now, this is still a transverse setup, so the engine is located side by side in the platform versus forward and back. It's not a conventional four-wheel drive system in that there's no four-low, but in this AT4 they have worked some magic to make this vehicle more capable off-road than any other Acadia in the past, and the old one was actually pretty good as well. Now, as we come along the side here, let's talk about some design aspects. I like this AT4 because it's all been blacked out. The mirror caps blacked out, the window trim blacked out. Got these blacked out roof rails and this nice tint on the rear windows, and then out back we're going to find that clamp style design makes its way to the taillights as well. AT4 badging, and then Dad, check out the quad exhaust.
Yeah, the Enclave has a big exhaust as well, but it's not quad, it's just dual. And then in terms of fuel economy, the sticker says this gets about 21 mpg, but I drove the Buick from Portland to Oceanside, which is obviously on the ocean, and I got 25 mpg, so it did better than advertised.
Now, I think you're going to find behind that little cover, we're going to find a hitch. It tows about 5,000 pounds. And let's check out the trunk space. Taillights are flashing. Why aren't you opening, buddy?
Here, I'll do it. Hold on.
There it goes. There it goes. Got to be a little closer. So this is a proper 3-row SUV. And here, let's show the seats folded down. I'm going to pull that lever. Oh, no!
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Oh, come on.
Here, I'll get it.
Hey, you want to slide that seat forward?
Yeah, I got it.
Really? What they've done with this Acadia is given a ton of space behind that second row. You gotta slide that puppy forward, Dad.
Okay, all right. Well, how do you do that?
I think there's a lever underneath the seat.
I tried. I got it. Okay,
yeah.
There we go.
There you go. So there we see that this version does have the captain. You're really struggling. So look, so you pull the lever, headrest goes down, the seats fold. Lots of space back here. And it's got to have the captain's chairs that, as my dad accidentally demonstrated, do fold down. Lots of space underneath this cargo bay, and then you can even see on this little diagram, you got a space saver donut underneath the tray.
Now the Buick has electric controls right there. You can actually see where they would go, so you can fold the seats and actually put them back up electrically.
And if you do want a more luxurious version of the Acadia, there is the Denali as well. So there is a more bougie version of this 3-row.
Yeah, and I was driving the Avenir, Tommy, which is a more bougie version of the Enclave.
Now let's talk about the rear seat space in this vehicle.
It's not bad, actually.
So
second row especially.
I'm gonna go third row first.
All right, go third row.
Now this seat is scooted a little bit forward.
Yeah.
How did you manage to mess it up both ways? You want to scoot it back now?
Sure, I'll get in here. Case, you want to come around this way? There you go. You can take that door. All right, I'm gonna scoot it back. You ready?
Yep.
I'm scooting it back.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as like a Tahoe or Suburban back here. There are 3 seats, which is quite nice. So if you want the full 3-seat experience, you can check that out.
Wait, hold on. You just glossed over something. I mean, a Suburban and a Tahoe is a lot bigger than this.
Sure.
This competes with like the Palisade, the Telluride, the Highlander, the Grand Highlander. This is not a full-size 3-row by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's why I said the Tahoe and Suburban are better.
Yeah, much better.
But they're bigger.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty good back here. USB-C ports as well, and even air vents in the roof. So your third seat occupants are going to be okay.
And then 3-zone climate control. So
Yep.
I've got
heated seats in this one too. So it's a really luxurious experience in your GMC Acadia off-roader.
You want to come out of there?
Yep. There you can see that does fold and pivot out of the way
Okay.
quite nicely. And then let's check out the front seat. So what I'm finding
Yep.
with these new cameras, Dad, is it's better if we turn the cars around. So let me hop in. We'll spin it around so we can
All
show
right,
you.
hey, Case, you
the
want to get next to
dashboard.
Tommy and I'll get in the third row. Let's do that. And by the way, Case did review this off-road. He's behind the camera now, but he did an off-road review, and we'll kind of cut to that and show how he does off-road.
That was the Chevrolet version of this, the
Yes.
Traverse. And yeah, we'll cut to that footage, and actually I think it did pretty well. The GM all-wheel drive systems have really been on it. So let's talk about the sticker on this car and some of these interior features. So if we look at this 2024 AT4 all-wheel drive in Summit White, total vehicle MSRP of $57,000. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's pretty good value?
Yeah, I'm going to be very general here. They start, all 3 of them, around 45-ish, maybe a little bit less, and then go up to about 60, depending on the trim level that you have. And I think 60,000 for this. Actually, this is cheaper. 57,000 for this is certainly the one I would go for instead of the Buick. I also like the vertical instead of horizontal big display. So the Enclave has a 30-inch horizontal. This has a more traditional vertical display with also a display in front of the driver. And I find the cameras are really good. I like the real buttons for the climate controls. I like the giant, huge volume knob. And it's just got a lot of really luxurious features, including a heated steering wheel, heated and cooled seats. It's kind of everything for $57,000. It's a lot of money, but you get a lot of creature comforts.
We're also rolling with the Google suite on this infotainment system. So we've got Google Maps, which means you've got the best traffic guidance in the world, in my opinion. So it's a really usable interior wireless.
Hit the little Google mic button.
Yeah, so you can ask Google to take you someplace. Google, take me to Starbucks.
Well, that didn't work.
That didn't go so good.
Oh, here it comes.
Take me to Starbucks. Take you someplace.
Let's try that again. Try it again.
Okay.
Let me try it. Google, tell me a joke.
What's a pig's favorite karate move? A pork chop.
There you go.
Dad knows a few things about dad jokes.
That's awesome. You can use that one on your next date, folks.
Yes. Yeah.
So
We'll tell you a joke at least.
as we accelerate away here, everybody all buckled up. The driving experience is nice. One of the things I don't like as much about this Acadia is it has a really high belt line. So even though I'm 6 feet tall, you kind of feel like you're in a pit looking out the front, and you feel kind of short. So what I have to do, even at my height, is I have to kind of jack up the seat to a higher driving position. But that's just one of the negatives here.
You want to stop and accelerate to show how it does?
Sure, let's see what this 2.5 does.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Go for it.
Some brake torquing. Pretty good. There we go.
There's just a little tinge of turbo lag.
Yeah, so it really hits hard after like 3,500, 4,000 RPM. It's a very coarse engine, so you don't hear a lot of it on everyday driving. It's pretty quiet, but once you do get over that 2,500, 3,000 RPM threshold, it does kind of sound like rocks in a blender. It's not super refined.
It's got this like funky whine. And I noticed that the Enclave had it, and the Traverse had it as well.
Is that the turbo, Dan? Spooling up, you got that whistle?
It's not a whistle. It's more of a whine. I wouldn't mind a whistle. You want to open up this giant sunroof, by the way, show it to him?
Sure.
Yeah, it's really big. Look at that.
One touch, push that, it's going to panoramic open.
Yeah.
The driving dynamics of this car, good. They're really nice. I think
nice.
that the all-terrain tires with the big sidewall certainly helps it, but it's nicely dampened. Steering's a little bit heavy, but brakes feel great, and the ride quality is never harsh or jittery. It's very, very well tuned. One of the highlights, actually, and the overall cabin is pretty quiet, except for that coarseness of that engine at those higher RPMs. And then if you do care about ADAS technology, Super Cruise this model, so on those pre-mapped highways, it's a completely hands-off, eyes-on system, but you can take your hands off the wheel and let it do its thing. We also have adaptive cruise control and blind spot monitoring and the full 360 camera stuff, so it's pretty well equipped.
So I got to try Super Cruise in the Buick version of this yesterday, and on the highway, by far the best.
Yes.
It does automatic lane changes, so you don't get pushed behind traffic. Just does a really good job when there's a semi. It kind of goes a little bit to the left so that you're not next to the semi. And then I tried it on a twisty road, and not so good, Tommy. It was like driving with somebody who had just learned to drive. It was very timid. It was very unsure of itself. And I would say on the highway, heck yes. On a twisty road, just drive yourself.
Well, I'm thinking that you probably weren't in Super Cruise.
I was in Super Cruise.
Super Cruise doesn't work on twisty roads. That would be lane centering and adaptive cruise.
No, no, you're wrong, Tommy. GM, sorry, I don't mean to be so harsh about this, but GM has now included.
They mapped.
Yep, exactly.
Non-divided highways.
Yes, non-divided highways, side roads. I was in Super Cruise.
You had the full green light thing on the steering wheel.
Yes, I know. You don't trust me, Tommy.
I don't trust you, no, because I've never heard of Super Cruise not working on a divided highway.
Yes, now it works on secondary roads.
Okay.
And specifically, they took us on this route to show us how it worked on non-highway.
Huh.
Yeah. There you go. You learned something new. And by the way,
Interesting.
how much does it cost if you want a Super Cruise?
$3,000.
Very good. Yeah. And I think you get it for 3 years, and then it becomes a monthly subscription, which I'm sure everybody loves.
One other weird thing about this car is there is a mode to select all-wheel drive if you want to maybe save some fuel. And
you want to show them?
Yeah, cruise around in two-wheel drive. There's a button over here.
Very unusual.
It says, well, GM does this with all their SUVs. So you can go from front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. And then you also have L. So you can go to a low mode and use the paddle shifters to manually select. But it's kind of funky. It's on the steering wheel. Yeah,
you figure it's probably better fuel economy, right? Because in two-wheel drive, if you look at the little icon that displays, it shows you that it's using the front wheels.
But like every other midsize or full-size SUV that's front-wheel drive biased, just disconnects it automatically. Why do I want to manually disconnect
I like the button because it gives me more control.
It's cool. I mean, as a kid of the '60s, I bet that does feel good to go from two-wheel drive to all-wheel drive.
Look, you're driving along and it starts to snow, and you're like, aha! I've got a button to take care of this, and you push the button, and you're like, nah, I'm rocking it.
If you were born past 1980, we also have these things called computers, and they will do that for you. You could just leave it in all-wheel drive in any other car and have it just do that automatically.
Oh, come on! It's more fun if you can select it yourself as opposed to having the car do everything like Super Cruise, which actually, like I say, didn't fall in love with on the secondary roads.
So what do you think of the GMC, the Chevy, or the Buick? Which one are you taking home?
I'd probably take this one. So I drove the Traverse. It's a little bit less money. It's a little bit more, plain Jane. The Buick is just a little too fancy schmancy, a little too bougie for me. This is the bed that is just right.
I like the Traverse a lot. I think that's going to be my choice. I really like the styling on that Traverse especially, but they're all great options. If you want to save a little money, get the Chevy. If you want the most opulent experience, get the Buick. But I do agree that the GMC is a nice middle ground.
Yeah, and it's a good size, right? I mean, I was kind of making fun that it's not as big as a Suburban or a Tahoe, but it's also much easier to park and a lot easier to live with, and certainly a lot better on your wallet than a Tahoe or a Suburban or one of the Uber. You just drove, for instance, the Armada, right? That's also a very big 3-year-old, but this is a good size. I think it'll work for a lot of people, and the question is, have they done enough to compete with the likes of the Grand Highlander, the Palisade, the Telluride? And I think they have. Those cars kind of brought up the standard of the family hauler in terms of styling, in terms of interior, and now GM is right there with them.
Well, let us know what you all think in the comment section below. Big thank you to Case behind the camera. I'll see you in the next one.
Ciao.